everyone, welcome back to the Israel Connection. I'm Esti Zenati, and my guest today is Hillel Fuld. He is an American Israeli tech advisor, journalist, and one of the most prominent digital advocates for Israel and the Jewish people. Hillel has spent over 2 decades mentoring hundreds of startups and advising global giants like Google, Microsoft, and Oracle. Beyond his work in Startup Nation, Hillel leverages his massive social media reach to combat misinformation, champion Zionist values, and showcase Israeli innovation to millions worldwide. A columnist for the Jerusalem Post, and a frequent voice in Forbes and Tech Church. He is widely recognized for his giving first philosophy and his tireless commitment to defending Israel on the global stage. Hillel, thank you for joining me today.
With that intro, I'll join you anytime. Just
That's
so
a good one, right?
Just so your viewers are clear, it's Tech Crunch, not Tech Church. I don't write for a Christian.
No, not that kind of church.
It's Tech Crunch. Okay. Anyway, yes, let's rock and roll.
So as we said, you spent like years as a tech guy, but since October 7th, your feed has become a front line for Israel advocacy. Was there like a specific moment that you realized that you just couldn't keep that in the back and just have to speak up no matter what?
Yeah, October 7th. That's when it happened. October 7th, I took a look at the landscape and I realized the world doesn't need more tech marketing right now. And I shut down the business and, refocused everything to defend Israel online, basically. And that's what I've been doing for 2.5 years.
What was like the feedback like in the beginning when you first started doing that?
It's been crazy. I mean, the numbers are completely outrageous. I mean, if you look at impressions, views, my content since October 7th, I haven't looked recently, but it's many, many billions with a B. So that's been, incredibly gratifying. The messages that I get from people who, I spent years building a relationship with and trust with, who, aren't exactly pro-Israel, but again, they trust me. So the messages I'm getting from those people telling me that I've opened their eyes to a whole different, perspective, very gratifying.
Yeah. So you often apply tech marketing principles to Zionism. So if Israel were a startup and its brand was currently underwater, what is the first step in the rebranding strategy to reach people who aren't already on our side?
Figure out the narrative, right? Again, like any startup, what is your story? Like, how are you pitching this thing? How are you marketing this thing? How are you selling this thing? What is your pitch? What is your value proposition? Who's your target audience? This is stuff that is 101 when it comes to marketing, and somehow when it comes to Israel, we've skipped that part. And our enemies are phenomenal at this. They have a great narrative. It's a false narrative, but it's a narrative, and it's very easy to understand. Whether you're 4 years old or 98 years old, you can understand you are oppressing us, free Palestine. Simple. When you look at Israeli, advocates, everyone's yelling something else. This guy's yelling about Mamdani. This guy's yelling about the New York Times. This guy's like no narrative. And what we do have is completely fragmented. So the first step is figuring out what is our story? What is our narrative? Then you figure out the channel by which to get that narrative out. And then you figure out how to unify the message and join forces instead of everyone being so fragmented.
Yeah. So speaking of that, we've seen with particularly the Gen Z that they have been very influenced by everything that was going on from the Palestinian narrative and buying into all of that, even though we know it's lies. How do you think we can, how can we communicate with them and try to change that and bring it to our side?
The premise of your question is that we can. I don't know that we can, nor do I know that we should. I think, again, the first thing we need to do after figuring out the narrative is figuring out who our target audience is, right? And the way I see it, there are 3 groups on the internet. There's our group, which is people that are pro-Israel and understand that we're on the right side of history. Then there's the people on the other end, who I call the Heil Hitler folks, who are just a lost cause. You could show them till you're, blue in the face that the chair that you're sitting next to is red, and they'll keep telling you it's black. And you're saying, no, but look, it's red. No, it's black. So you're just wasting your time talking to those people. The middle group is by far the largest group. And that is not necessarily people who are pro-Israel, but those are people who have integrity. People who are willing to, learn. People are willing to ask. People are willing to debate, not call names, and there are many, many millions of people out there who fall into that category. That's who we should be speaking to. And, as far as how to get to them, I think our narrative, in my opinion, is pretty clear. And if I had to sum it up in one word, it's light. The Jewish people have been a source of light in this world in a very real way. Whether you look at Nobel Prizes, or you look at cancer research, or you look at technology, or whatever you want to look at, Jewish people have been a strong source of light in this world. And we need to own that. We need to stop apologizing for that. And we need to own it. And, if we don't own it, and if we're not proud of everything we've accomplished in this world, how do we expect others to respect us?
Yeah, it's true. I think, I don't know if you know Abraham Hamra. He was my guest in the last episode. He said recently that we should just stop apologizing and stop defending ourselves in that way, Yeah. And I agree. I mean, we have to be proud of who we are. We have to be ourselves. We have to make sure the world understands, like, we're not going anywhere. This is us.
Yep.
Deal with it.
Yeah, and it's the weak Jew with the trembling knees is long gone. The world doesn't like it because they like the weak Jew, but we're no longer weak, and you're gonna have to get over it. If it bothers you, get over it.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere.
That's right.
So you've been very vocal about the silence of the Silicon Valley leaders. Why do you think the tech industry has been so hesitant to stand up to Israel, to stand up like for Israel, and to, given that Israel is like one of the most innovative nations and we have a lot in tech?
Yeah, it's a crazy phenomenon. I mean, you have some leading investors in Silicon Valley who are seriously some of the smartest people in the world, some of the most brilliant minds, like Paul Graham, for example, who's an investor that started Y Combinator, which is the accelerator that Airbnb was born in. He's probably one of the top 5 investors in the world, and he is a flaming anti-Semite, and his Twitter feed is just one big collection of blood libels. And you have to wonder, someone that smart, who is so driven by data in everything that he does, somehow when it comes to Israel, facts don't matter. It's mind-boggling, right? So that's a phenomenon it's really hard to wrap your head around, because these people that are investing in Israel and understand how forward-thinking Israel is and how incredible Israeli engineers and founders are, at the same time are accusing us of these insane things. So I just think that, as my father would say, people have such open minds, their brains fell out.
Yeah. I mean, it's what we see also in academia, all the big professors and universities and, all the Ivy Leagues, which is crazy.
Yep. They
go to that narrative rather than trying to think a little bit. And you would think people that educated would be smarter than that, but
totally crazy.
Yeah. So as we all know, the word Zionist has been hijacked and turned upside down, and I don't even know what they did to it. How do you personally define Zionism today in 2026? And how do we reclaim that word for what it actually is for the next generation?
It's really, this is one of those things that's just overcomplicated for no reason. Like, Zionism is the movement to bring the Jews back to their eternal homeland. That's it. That's the whole thing. Like, right. Jews, are indigenous to this land, and that's why it's called Judea and Samaria. And there was never a moment in history in which there were no Jews in the land of Israel. And, it's our land. Let's just say it as it is. And so, the movement to bring Jews back to Israel is the epitome of morality. The fact that they could take that and turn it into something, racist is absurd. It's absolutely comical.
Yeah.
And, I think, they could say whatever they want. At the end of the day, if you do not believe, especially after the Holocaust, that Jews deserve a safe haven among a world of 52 Muslim states and endless Christian states, if one state is too much for you to handle and Jews don't deserve one state, you're an anti-Semite. Let's just say it as it is. If you're an anti-Zionist, you're an anti-Semite.
That's what it is. Yeah, there's no separation between the two.
Yep.
Yeah. So you understand social media better than a lot of people, and you've been very vested in that world. How much of the current rise in anti-Semitism do you attribute to deliberate platform bias versus the organic, like, echo chamber effect of the TikTok generation?
Yeah, I think social media is a accelerant. I think it's a megaphone, and if in 1935 in Germany, the horrible ideas perpetrated by the Nazis took time to spread. Today, it doesn't take time, right? Mm-hmm. And so you see podcasters like Tucker Carlson who are just full-blown, blood libel anti-Semites. I mean, and he has millions of people who watch him. Same with Candace Owens. She's a full-blown lunatic, just a Jew hater through and through. She is, one of the most popular podcasts in the United States. And many others who may be a little bit less, like Piers Morgan or others. But
Nick Fuentes.
Well, the defense does forget. I mean,
that's like a whole different level. Yeah.
That's something else. But yeah, these people have large platforms and millions of people who listen to them, and it's a very, very dangerous thing to use social media to spread these ideas.
Yeah. So you get to engage with his trolls and, all these negative people online. What rule of engagement do you have for deciding if a conversation is productive to use your platform for, or if you just let it go and just ignore them?
If they listen. If a person's listening, let's have a conversation. If a person's going to call me names and curse me out and share ridiculous memes like they're 4 years old, and let's not waste our time. I'll just, the block button is very accessible to me and I use it often. But if a person's willing to talk, I don't care what their opinions are, by the way. They could be the most anti-Israel person in the world. But if they're willing to talk and willing to have a conversation, a civil conversation, a dialogue, I'm all over it.
Was there like a specific conversation that you remember that turned out to be a really positive ending outcome to it?
Sure. I wrote, for example, in the beginning of the war, a pretty long post about what is Zionism. What is it? No emotion, no superlatives, just a factual, historical account to what is Zionism. And I had thousands of messages from people saying, I didn't know any of that. And really, people told me, like, they just didn't know the facts. And, I'll give you one example of a person not knowing the facts. I had a conversation with someone who's a pretty well-respected tech entrepreneur. And we were having an open conversation about it and about the war and everything. And he said, listen, October 7th, obviously tragic, horrible day. But, in their defense, you were occupying Gaza.
Yeah.
And I said to him, do you ever hear the disengagement? He said, no. I said, let me ask you a question. Is there any other area of your life in which you would express such a strong opinion without knowing anything about the topic? How do you express your opinion on this war without not knowing that Israel left Gaza in 2005? There was not a single Jew in Gaza on October 7th, not alive and not dead. Israel dug up its dead so that, their bodies wouldn't be mutilated, which we see they were. We left Gaza. There was not a single. So what are you talking about? He said, all right, let me do some research. Comes back and he's like, wow, I just had no idea. You just taught me something that I just didn't know. So again, that requires integrity. That requires a person who's able to be honest and learn things and not think they know everything, even though they know nothing. And we all know, you go to these paid protests and these marches against, Israel, and you ask anyone what river and what sea, and they have no clue what the hell they're talking about. So, if a person doesn't know what they're talking about and they're not willing to learn, don't waste your time. But if a person is willing to have a discussion and learn, then engage.
Yeah, and I respect that. I think that this is something we've heard a lot, during the beginning. Oh, you deserve that because you did this and that. Israel is occupying Gaza, and
it's crazy.
Have you not heard about Israel exiting Gaza in 2005? Like, that's like the one thing that I've heard over and over and over in the beginning. And I feel like a lot of people didn't want to listen and didn't care about that. But then others were like, oh, let me do some research. And then they learn, like, oh, it's like a light bulb, I guess.
It's great. It's crazy that millions of people out there are so heavily invested in a conflict they know nothing about. Nothing. They couldn't point to Israel on a map. They literally could not point to Israel on a map. These people are heavily indoctrinated, and that's the best case scenario. Most of them are actually paid. It's an absurd situation, but again, I have to say, this is credit to our enemies because they are very well coordinated. They have media kits and they have PDFs and they have Zoom calls, and they are very well orchestrated and very well coordinated. And if anyone thinks that the All Eyes on Rafah campaign just came to be, or if the encampments just came to be, then you're delusional, right? This is a very well coordinated effort, well paid effort, and we see the results.
And also, I think it happened, especially with the encampments and everything that's going on college campuses. It's been happening for years. This is not the first time. Like, it didn't start on October 7th.
Right.
It's been happening for years.
If you want to know what our enemies are guilty of, literally look at what they're accusing us of. Every single thing, it's unbelievable. Every single thing that they accuse us of is an admission of guilt, right? I mean, genocide. Have you seen what they did on October 7th? Starvation. Have you seen what they did to our hostages? Sexual crimes. Are you kidding me right now? Apartheid. Good luck walking into an Arab town in Judea and Samaria. There's a big red sign that basically says, if you're a Jew, you can't walk past here. That is apartheid. So everything, they accuse us of being paid for our hasbara. Really? You guys are like blatantly being paid. So every single thing, if you want to know what they're guilty of, look what they're accusing us of.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, to this day, when I see people react to these things and are like, oh, you're doing this and that, I'm like, how blind can you be? Like, this is right in front of your face.
Yeah. And by the way, just, on the good side of that is that this took me a while to realize, but the situation today is so far removed from anything logical and rational that I can't help but realize that this is God's doing. This is not man-made, because again, you can't be that dumb. Like just go to the most basic fundamental issue here. How could it be that after October 7th, instead of the world siding with Israel, anti-Semitism spiked? It doesn't make any sense. It's just counterintuitive. No. So again, as a religious and observant Jew, I see God here. I don't know why God does the things that he does, but it sure as heck is not man-made, because none of this makes any sense.
No, I've been feeling like I was in a twilight zone for quite some time.
Yep.
So, standing up to for Israel and doing all these things comes with a price, as we all know. And one of the things that happened is that you were banned from Australia and amongst other Israeli and Jewish influencers and politicians. How did that happen, and why do you think it happened in Australia specifically?
I mean, Australia's rotten to the core. The government there is just have lost their minds. They've lost their moral compass and they've lost their minds. And they when they banned me from Australia, they sent me an email with the explanation of why I was banned, and it included a PDF that quoted some of my tweets that were quote unquote Islamophobic. Ridiculous. None of them were Islamophobic. Nothing that I write is Islamophobic. I'm the farthest thing from a racist. But they found an excuse and they went with it, and it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. I mean, the things that I said were factually based. Like, it wasn't even a question. But they wanted to ban me, so they found an excuse.
How did you navigate this whole negative experience? Not just with that, with other things as well.
I mean, first of all, of course, I appealed, and I went that route. Then I went the diplomatic route. Ambassador Huckabee wrote a letter on my behalf. Israel's foreign ministry wrote a letter on my behalf. The media went crazy with it. It went, it was all over the place. But they didn't reverse the decision, and I was, of course, devastated. But it turned out, to be a very good thing, because a few days later the Iran war broke out, and I would have been stuck in Australia. So I was home with my kids, and I'm very thankful that they banned me.
Yeah, so I guess it all worked out for the best. And they lost a good speaker, so.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
So your brother Ari was a legendary lion for the Jewish people. How much of your current intensity and your refusal to stay silent is fueled by a sense of duty to carry on the specific work that he started?
Well, I ask myself on a daily basis, WWAD, what would Ari do? Right? Because we actually had a disagreement about this. He engaged with everyone. Anybody, literally anybody argued, he would engage. And I'm like, the guy's not listening to you. Like, we disagreed on that. But his legacy, many legacies, but I would say his strongest legacy is the I say obsessive, but that has negative connotations, but his obsessive need to stick to the truth, right? I mean, we live in such a world of lies. And when someone would talk to him and say, the state of Palestine, and we all just maybe go on with the conversation, he would wait, whoa, the state of what? Because tell me, if the state of Palestine existed, please, who was the first leader, and what was the national anthem, and what was the currency, and what was the language spoken, and the person looks at him, like, what? And the answer is, Ari didn't accept these lies. You would come and you would say the West Bank, and he would say, you mean Judea and Samaria. So, I try to do that, and sometimes I fail. Sometimes I use the word Palestinian because there's just no other, way to describe them. But I try to stick to the truth as much as I can.
And the truth is important, and hopefully more people will learn from the truth instead of believing all the lies that they've been fed.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a crazy world we live in. Like, truth, it's not even like truth is an ideal anymore. Forget the fact that people are just constantly spreading lies about the Jews and everything, but it's not even like we try to, achieve, or we don't even aim there. Like, the world is just lost. They've lost their minds. Like, and I'll tell you something, I don't want to get too controversial, but when it comes to the issue of pronouns, right? So, one of the biggest, let's say, arguments of the let's call it pro-trans community is, what do you care? If I want to be called a man, or I want to be called a woman, call me a woman. What do you care? It doesn't cost you anything. Why do you have to offend me? Just call me a woman. Now, there is some truth to that when it comes to pronouns. However, what you're in essence doing is you're teaching an entire generation not to use critical thinking, because you're telling a child who's looking at a man and sees a man in front of him that he shouldn't believe his eyes or his brain. And you're telling him that's a woman. And he says, but I'm looking at a man. No, that's a woman. Now, when it comes to pronouns, it doesn't cost anything. But when you teach a generation not to use critical thinking, then when there's a war between good and evil, between a nation and a country that wants to live in peace and a group of rapists and pedophiles, you told them yesterday not to use critical thinking. So today they can't differentiate between good and evil. And that is a very steep price.
There's there's a lot there. And I know I don't want to get too much into it because it's out of our, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think we see in the current generation, like the Gen Z, particularly in the US and Europe, that they cannot think for themselves for the life of them. Like this is not, and I'm generalizing, and I'm sure there are some that obviously are great thinkers, and this is not what we see out there, like on social media and in the world when you go to do your speaking gigs and all that. I'm sure you get into arguments and conversations with those people. Is there like anything, like any conversation that you remember, when you did out there speaking, that somebody tried to come at you with some argument and then you made them, like, their brain switched, I guess? Or
yeah, I mean, it happens every day. It happens literally every day. I mean, that example that I gave before with the disengagement was a very blatant one, but it happens literally every day where someone comes and says to me, whatever it is they're saying, Israel, kicked Arabs, whatever they want to say. And I'm like, do you know, whatever fact it is you want? And they just don't know. So oftentimes, if it's a person with integrity, they will listen to what you're saying and they will go verify it themselves and see if it's true. And when they see that it is true, they often will change their mind. So this is something that literally happens every day.
Was there ever like an incident that you were like, you had to be escorted out, or something violent that happened during one of your talks?
I mean, my last speaking gig on the East Coast, I had about 30 security guards for the event that I was speaking at, and a bodyguard that wouldn't let my wife go to the bathroom without him, like that level. So security has absurdly, because again, I'm just a random dude. I'm not like a politician, so it's insane. But I was supposed to speak on that trip at Brooklyn Law, and Students for Justice in Palestine got my speech canceled. So, this has happened several times where I was banned from a country, banned from a campus, banned from different places. It's insane. It's truly insane. Like, how do you as an American university justify just blocking speech that way? It's crazy, but this is the reality we live in, and it's absurd and it's dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, but we see others like the Israeli comedian recently, forgot his name. His shows were canceled in New York and LA.
Franklin, what's his name? Not Franklin, Guy
Hoffman.
Guy Hoffman, right.
Yeah, so his events were canceled, and a lot of others, like Michael Rappaport, he had to cancel in a few different states, and yeah, there's a lot of cancellations because of that.
Yeah. Yep.
So looking into the future, the possible future, what does a secure and integrated Israel look like to you? And are you optimistic that the spirit of the Abraham Accords can survive this era of global intense anti-Semitism?
The future of Israel is extremely optimistic. I'm very, very bullish on the future of the Jewish people and the future of the state of Israel. I mean, we know how the story ends. It's not like, this is our first rodeo. We've been down this path before. We know what happens when empires turn on the Jews. The empire falls. That happened in ancient Egypt and Rome and Greece and Soviet and Nazi and every other empire that came after the Jews fell. They're all gone, and we're here. And so this is unfortunately what's happening in the West today. And countries like the UK and Canada and Australia and South Africa have fallen. Like, let's just say it as it is. They have fallen. Yeah. The United States still has a couple of, depends who you ask, whether it's a couple of years or a couple of decades. I don't think it's a couple of decades left, but obviously New York City is gone. Florida is still livable for Jews, but they're next. And unfortunately, we know that this doesn't reverse itself, right? So anti-Semitism has never gotten better. And unless somehow miraculously this will be the first time in history that it makes a 180, the next step, unfortunately, is indeed the fall of the West.
So do you think, given what we see now in the West, do you think on the other side, the Middle East, is going to get better? Because it feels like, in a weird way, that for countries like UAE and all these the area around that it's gotten better with Israel in relations to Israel with the Abraham Accords, and kind of accepting Israelis, but I don't buy it 100% because I feel like there's still obviously something under the surface. But do you think it's getting better over there?
I just came back from Dubai a couple of weeks ago.
Mhm.
It's incredible. Zero anti-Semitism. I openly told people that I'm from Tel Aviv. There was not an issue at all whatsoever. Now, do I believe that, you know, all of a sudden millions of Muslims started loving Jews? You know, no. But at the end of the day, there was enough incentive for them to, you know, build a relationship with Israel, and it's mutually beneficial. Everyone's gaining at the end of the day. Do I know if it's sustainable long term? I have no idea. But I will say, whether that's sustainable, whether, you know, Israel and America break up, or it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, Israel and the Jewish people are supernaturally resilient. Israelis, even today, given all the challenges, are still some of the happiest people in the world. The tech scene in Israel is continuing to break records. We are, listen, this is our story. We see this in the Torah, literally in the Bible. It says that the more the Egyptians persecuted the Israelites, the more the Israelites flourished. That's counterintuitive, but that's our story. The more they persecute, the more they terrorize, the more we innovate. The more darkness they bring, the more light we bring. This is a fact. This is a historical fact. And so, like I said, I'm super bullish about our future, not so much bullish about the future of our enemies.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see a much better future in the next 5 years or so, if not earlier.
Yeah.
You're very vocal about your Jewish returning to the homeland and encourage Aliyah. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the projects that you've been doing in regards to that, and actually help people make Aliyah easier?
Sure. So I was in Jerusalem this past Shabbat in synagogue. A stranger came over to me and he said, listen, I wanted to write you online, but I figured I'll bump into you eventually. I have to tell you that years ago, we wanted to make Aliyah, but the Jewish agency was giving them problems. He had to prove his wife was Jewish and some crazy stuff. And he just like, forget it, I'm not doing it. And fast forward a couple of years, he's reading one of my posts. He says to me, I'm reading one of your posts and you're going on and on about how it's terrible and every Jew needs to come home, whatever. And he says to me, I told my wife, I'm a very good debater and I want to be able to debate this guy, but I can't because everything he's saying is true. And he said, that post put me over the edge. We just made Aliyah. I was like, wait a second, hold on a second. What role did my post actually play in your Aliyah? You can't tell me like what, like you were there and I just pushed you over. Like he said, no. It was most of my Aliyah can be attributed to that post. And that he's not the first, second, or third, or fifth person to tell me that. I was sitting in a cafe maybe 3 months ago, and an American couple walks over to me and he says, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just have to tell you, we made Aliyah because of you. I'm like, what? Like, I don't even know you. Who are you? What are you talking about? And we start to talk, and they said to me, like, your posts just clarified and crystallized it for us, and we realized we needed to get out, and we made Aliyah because of you. So, you know, it's reaching many, many people, and I got to tell you, my schedule from the end of December until the end of April is back to back to back all day, every day, talking to Olim all day, whether it's people who made Aliyah or are going to make Aliyah. Today, I think I have 10. I think I have 10 calls today with Olim, and so yeah, I do not believe that there is any justification on a collective level for Jews not to come home today. Any reason that a Jew had once upon a time to not come home are no longer valid. It's no longer valid or accurate to say that you have to lower your quality of life when coming to Israel. You no longer have to cut your salary in half in most professions. You no longer can say that you're comfortable there. Israel's paradise, and most countries have now turned into basically hell for Jews. So, you know, again, on a collective level, Jews need to come home. On individual levels, people have their circumstances. People have elderly parents, whatever it may be. I get that. I'm not saying every person has to get on a plane tomorrow, but right. as a people, as a collective, it's time. There's no excuse. It's just, what are you waiting for? What has to happen? Because, you know, I challenge you and I challenge your viewers to name one thing that happened before the Holocaust, okay, that led up to the institutionalized anti-Semitism and then the extermination of Jews. Not that, because that's already too late. Anything that led up to that hasn't happened today. If you look at the things that happened in Europe in 1935, one for one, they all, synagogues being vandalized, Jewish businesses being boycotted, Jews being harassed and assaulted and murdered on the streets, anti-Semitic politicians rising to power. It's all happening. It's all happened. So I say to my friends, like, what exactly are you waiting for? Like, I never understood my whole life how the German Jews didn't leave. It always boggled my mind. And now I understand, because I speak to my friends in New York and New Jersey and wherever, and they're like, yeah, it doesn't affect me. I'm like, are you insane? Like, you know who your mayor is? Like, are you insane? Like, what kind of logic is that? You're walking in the street and you see a pit in front of you. What kind of idiot would say, I haven't fallen into the pit yet, so I'm going to keep walking? Dude, like look one step ahead of you. You know what's about to happen. And if you don't know what's about to happen, look in a history book. Like, how could you say it hasn't affected me yet? Okay, so what? You have to wait till you're like your family member is murdered or your neighbor is, God forbid, I don't even like. What do you mean it hasn't affected you yet? Like, it's absurd. But these people stick their heads so deep in the sand. And listen, I get it. It's not easy to pick up and leave a life. I'm not saying it is. I came here when I was 15. I didn't make any sacrifices. My parents brought me here, so you could take whatever I'm saying with a grain of salt. I get it. That being said, it seems to me, from where I'm sitting, that basically the Jewish people have overstayed their welcome. I mean, the analogy that I like to give is you're at a party in high school and, you're at someone's house at a party, you're having a good time. And then the parents come home and they're like, okay, the party's over. Like, go. And everyone leaves except for this one guy. He was like, yeah, I'm just going to stay. They're like, dude, read the room, man. It's time. The party's over. Go. Yeah, I'm going to stay. What? Like, Jews, you're overstayed your welcome, man. The party is over. Your countries have spoken. If you think that you have a future in Australia after Bondi Beach, then stop smoking whatever it is you're smoking. That's all I have to say.
But I think it's even deeper than that, because I feel like we see in New York, for example, that a lot of Jews voted for Mamdani, which is ridiculous. Why do you think this happened? Like, and it's not even the extreme, left Jews. It's some people in the middle as well that voted for him. You're asking that question like it's unprecedented. It's not unprecedented. This is every single generation. Yeah. I mean, 80%, as we know, of the Israelites stayed back in Egypt. 80%. God said, you've been slaves for 210 years. I brought you the 10 plagues. I'm splitting this. Go to Israel. Now we'll stay back. 80%. It's insanity, right? But this is what we do. We have this pattern of just not seeing what's right before our eyes. Obviously, we had that in Germany, we know, but it's in every generation. And I'll tell you, if you want me to psychoanalyze it, I can. I'll tell you what I think the psychology behind it is that when you look at the script, it's the same script that keeps repeating itself. What happens is there's an empire, and that empire grows until it reaches world domination. And the first thing that it does is it throws morality out the window, right? It puts people to fight to the death in the Colosseum for the emperor's entertainment, and it throws gender out the window. They lose morality. And now when they lose their moral compass, the last thing they want is morality shoved down their throats. So they come after the people that brought the morality to the world, right? And if you think that that's a supremacist statement, ask yourself, how does the world know it's immoral to murder? Because in ancient times, it wasn't immoral to murder. So where did the world learn that it's immoral to murder? The answer is the Bible. We brought the Bible to the world. So they said, we don't want your morality shoved down our throat, and they come after us. And we, in every generation, think that if we show our hosts that we're just like them, they say, hey, Romans, we're just like you. Hey, Egyptians, love us. We're just like you. We think that that's going to work. The opposite is what happens. The more we assimilate, the more the anti-Semitism spikes, right? But again, we don't learn our lesson. We always come and we say, hey, Americans, we, the American Jews, we're more American than you. We are the most liberal people in America as Jews. We're going to vote for Mamdani. And you're like, but Mamdani hates you. Yeah, but we're going to vote. It's insane. It's insane behavior. Yeah. It's suicidal behavior, but it's not new behavior. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, a Jew is a Jew. And if they come for us, they're going to come for all of us, no matter who we voted for. So,
yep.
Yeah. So with the making an Aliyah, it is, the bureaucracy in Israel is insane. As an Israeli, I've lived that most of my life, and I know, but making an Aliyah is not an easy feat. You obviously leave your life behind, and then particularly if you're coming with a whole family. When a single person comes, it's a little easier, but how do you suggest people navigate that process?
Well, what happens, I don't agree with your premise.
Why?
I mean, I came here 30 years ago, and 30 years ago, I had to have my friends from America bring me tuna fish. Like, you couldn't get peanut butter in this country. Like, it was a third world country. 30 years ago, if you came to Israel, there was only one reason, and that's because you were a hardcore Zionist. Today, Israel's paradise. You do not have to lower your quality of life when you come to Israel. In my opinion, in most cases, you increase your quality of life. And yeah, I'm not saying there aren't challenges. Of course, there are challenges going from any country to any country. And yes, Israelis are rough around the edges. And, yeah, I'm not denying that. But
no, I don't think you need to lower the quality of life, not at all. Like the bureaucracy of like the process of coming to Israel.
Okay, but I'll tell you the analogy that I like to give, which is we all know the famous story of the guy that gets on the roof in the storm, and the water is approaching, and he's like on the roof, and they send a boat, and he says, God's gonna save me up here. Like, get in the boat, dude. What are you doing? God's gonna save me. And then they send a helicopter. Get in the helicopter. God's gonna save me. And then he drowns, and he goes up to God. He says, God, I believed in you. Why didn't you save me? And God says, I didn't save you. I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. You didn't get on. What do you want from me? Jews in the diaspora are going to go up to God one day and say, God, we prayed for the ingathering of the exiles for thousands of years. We prayed towards Jerusalem. Why didn't you bring us home? And God's going to look at those people confused and say, I didn't bring you home. I sent you elal.com. I sent you Nefesh B'Nefesh. I made Israel paradise. You still didn't get on a plane. So I sent you Mamdani so that you shouldn't have any misunderstandings that you are no longer safe there. You still didn't get on a plane. It's not my fault. Don't blame me. That's the truth. And so, yeah, there are challenges, Israeli bureaucracy, but at the end of the day, there's a support system, the likes of which we never had. If it's Nefesh B'Nefesh and other organizations, there are tens of thousands of people who have done it before you, who, are willing and happy to support and to help and to give advice. And again, like if you want to come here and your mindset is you need to come because this is your home, you'll make it work. I just had a meeting a few hours ago with a woman who came here in August. And I asked her what I ask every person that I meet. I said, what are your challenges? You just got here. What are your challenges? And she said, I don't have any. I said, what do you mean you don't have any? You just got here. What does that mean? She said, I'm good. I'm like, what do you mean you're good? What? You've no challenges. No, I'm good. I'm like, what? She goes, I'm living the dream. What do you mean? And this is a woman, by the way, whose husband is a very specific type of doctor. And he's having a hard time finding a job here. So for now, he lives there in America and he comes back every few weeks and she's living here. And she still says she has no challenges. How could that be? The answer is because she knows in her head this is her home and she needs to live here, period, full stop. So when people come here and they're saying, okay, I'll come if everything's perfect and, I have a job lined up and an apartment lined up and there's no challenges and nobody's rude to me, then you're gonna leave pretty soon. And if you leave your house in America, and then you're gonna leave. But if you come here with the mindset that this is your home and this is where you need to be, everything else will fall into place. Again, you will hit challenges. There's no question. But if you realize that this is what you need to do, you will overcome those challenges easily.
Okay. Hopefully people will give it a try.
Yeah. And by the way, just I have one more thing, and that is people say, oh, but so many people came and didn't make it. Dude, for every one person that came and didn't make it, there are 10,000 who did. Of course, the ones that don't make it are very vocal and very loud. So you hear about them. But statistics, the numbers don't lie. Again, I'm in Beit Shemesh. There are tens of thousands of Olim in this country, in this city, who came here without money. How do I know they came without money? Because if they had money, they'd be in Jerusalem or in Tel Aviv or in Ra'anana. They're in Beit Shemesh because they came with modest means, not dirt poor, but not rich. And they're living amazing lives here, So again, I'm not going to say there are no challenges. There obviously are challenges, but it's infinitely easier to move to Israel today than it's ever been.
Yeah, because I feel like it's more, not known, like more welcome today. I feel like they understand the importance of moving to Israel. And I say this as an Israeli who moved out of Israel. It's, nowadays after October 7th specifically, it's becoming like a little challenge. Obviously my family wanted me to move back the day I moved out, but it's becoming more challenging. And even, speaking to my daughter, I told her if things get a little worse in our area, that's the only place we can go to. We can only go to Israel.
Right.
So, yeah. If you can send a message to the young Jews out there, what would you tell them?
Israel is amazing. You come here. I sit with people in Sarona and Tel Aviv every day. I used to sit with them every day. Now I go to Tel Aviv a couple of times a week, and I say to people, whether it's people who moved here or want to move here or thinking of moving here, I ask them the same question. I say, how are you feeling right now? Sitting in this cafe in Tel Aviv, how are you feeling? And they all say the same thing. I feel infinitely safer here. You look around, you're living in paradise. And I could speak about it till I'm blue in the face, but those that are here or have come to visit know exactly what I'm talking about. They don't want to leave. So, if you have an opinion about Israel, I suggest you get on a plane, whether it's a 3-day trip or a week trip, whatever it is, come experience Israel, and you will see that your preconceived notions that you acquired through watching media are fundamentally just wrong, just false, fake. It's just not the case. Israel is incredible.
Yeah. And if they're in the diaspora right now and they can't come to Israel, how do you suggest they get their information about Israel, learn more about it, educate themselves?
Follow me on social media. What do you mean?
Where can they follow you?
Anywhere. I'm on all platforms. But really, that's a joke. But there are many people you can follow online to get the unedited, unfiltered version, not the version that the media needs to depict in order to get clicks, right? We're all smart enough to realize that, media, both traditional legacy media and social media depend on traffic, depend on clicks. And they know that, what gets clicks? Extremism and lies, right? So they need to vilify Israel. And that's what they need. I get it. Fine. That's not real life. And so don't listen to the media. Come experience it for yourself.
Yep. Is there anything that you've been working on that you would like people to know that is coming up for you? Any projects?
Yeah, I mean, we're building a lot of cool tech tools. Zionistinvestor.com is a new platform that just launched last week, which is a really cool platform because people that want to make Aliyah often think that Israeli real estate is unaffordable. And the reason they think that is because they're familiar with Jerusalem, they're familiar with Tel Aviv. You think they ever heard of Bat Yam? You think they ever heard of Ramat Gan? No. So what this does is this platform is you put in, the criteria of what you're looking for in terms of property, and it will show you, property in, let's say, Tel Aviv, but it will also show you property in places that you may never have heard of. And it uses AI to surface, different real estate properties around Israel. And it's a very, very cool platform. So that's one. And another one that just launched recently is henamkeari.com. henamkeari.com. And it's a very simple tool. There's 2 buttons. I'm an Ole. I want to help an Ole. That's it. You're an Ole. You have questions. You want to help Olim. You offer answers, and then it just connects them. Very simple. And there are other things. And Nefesh B'Nefesh is doing incredible work, not only in helping people make Aliyah, but their website is an absolute gold mine of endless resources. I mean, a job board, hundreds of communities, each of which has someone from the community who volunteered to talk to someone who wants to know about the community. Like the Nefesh B'Nefesh website, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to make Aliyah, you need to spend hours upon hours on the website.
Yeah, Nefesh B'Nefesh is a great organization.
Yep. Not many people know how great they are.
No, but I don't think they're spoken about enough.
It's true.
Yeah, but I did hear from some Olim that they've been talking about it and they've been working with them closely. But yeah, people need to know about them. They're a great organization.
By the way, they're not, I mean, they are the biggest for sure. But there are other organizations that are also incredible that nobody's heard of, like Israela. You ever hear of Israela?
Nope.
It's an incredible organization. They bring groups of families to Israel. The families pay for the flight. That's it. And they bring them around to towns that they probably never heard of. And as a group, they choose where to live and they move in. And the organization takes care of everything. Like literally, they get to their apartment and their refrigerator is full. Like they take care of everything. It's an incredible organization, and nobody's ever heard of them. So there are many organizations.
Yeah, check them out. It sounds very good.
There are many organizations out there to help Olim, and unfortunately, like many Israeli ventures, tech and other, they're just not very good at marketing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, hopefully people will get better at that, because I think these are important organizations that people need to learn about. That's for sure.
100%.
Yeah. All right, Hillel, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And I hope everybody follows you and learn more about you. We're going to tag you in our social media posts so they can find you easily.
Make Aliyah great again.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all for listening. Until next time.